Everyone remembers the conquerors, the sultans, the empire builders, the men who won. But in 1402, the most powerful man in the known world lost everything in a single afternoon. He was a sultan who had never lost a battle. Europe called him the Thunderbolt. 1 year later he was dead, a prisoner locked behind iron bars. This is not the story of a victory. This is the story of the losing side. June 1389. The field of Kosovo. As the battle against the Serbs reached its bloody climax, Sultan Murad lay dying. His son Bayezid acted within hours. He took command, crushed the Serbian army, and ordered his own brother strangled before the day ended. He was 29 years old. The speed of it shocked everyone, and speed would become his legend. He struck so fast, across so many frontiers, that men began calling him Yildirim, the Thunderbolt. In 4 years, he swallowed almost all of Anatolia. The Turkish principalities that had resisted the Ottomans for a century fell one by one. Their princes fled east. Remember those princes, because they will return. In the west, his armies pushed deep into the Balkans. Serbia became a vassal. Bulgaria ceased to exist. By 1394, Bayezid had done what no Ottoman ruler before him dared. He laid siege to Constantinople itself. Europe finally woke up. The Pope called for a crusade, the last great crusade of the Middle Ages. Knights came from France, from Burgundy, from Germany, from England, the flower of European chivalry. 16,000 men marched down the Danube, confident they could drive the Ottomans out of Europe entirely. One French knight boasted that if the sky itself fell, the lances of the Crusaders would hold it up. At Nicopolis in September 1396, they met the Thunderbolt. The French knights charged first, without orders, without patience. They smashed through the Ottoman front lines and rode straight into a field of hidden stakes. Behind the stakes stood the Janissaries, and behind the hill, Bayezid's heavy cavalry waited in silence. The trap closed in less than an hour. The crusade was annihilated. The captured knights ransomed for fortunes, or executed where they stood. After Nicopolis, no European army would dare face the Ottomans in the field for half a century. Bayezid now ruled from the Danube to the Euphrates. The Byzantine Empire, the heir of Rome, survived only inside the walls of one starving city. Its emperor traveled Europe, begging for help that never came. Constantinople was expected to fall within months. The Thunderbolt stood at the edge of history. One more victory, and he would take the city every conqueror for 7 centuries had dreamed of. He never got the chance. Far to the east, another conqueror had been building an empire of his own. His name was Timur. The West would remember him as Tamerlane. He was nearly 70 years old, lame in one leg, and utterly undefeated. He had broken the Golden Horde, shattered Delhi, and burned Baghdad to the ground. Where Bayezid commanded armies, Timur raised nations. Pyramids of skulls marked the roads his army traveled, and now the refugee princes of Anatolia knelt before him, whispering that the Ottoman upstart had stolen their lands. At the same time, princes fleeing Timur sheltered at Bayezid's court. 2 storms, each sheltering the other's enemy. The letters between them grew poisonous. Timur called Bayezid an ant who should not provoke an elephant. Bayezid answered with insults. No sultan should ever put in writing. He questioned Timur's courage and threatened his harem. After that letter, war was no longer politics. It was personal. In the summer of 1400, Timur's army crossed into Anatolia and stormed the fortress of Sivas. 4,000 defenders surrendered on the promise that their blood would not be shed. Timur kept his word in the cruelest way imaginable. He buried them alive. Bayezid abandoned the siege of Constantinople and turned his entire army east. In July 1402, the two largest armies on earth hunted each other across the Anatolian plateau. Timur moved like a ghost. He slipped behind the Ottoman army and seized Ankara, cutting Bayezid off from his own supplies. When the Ottomans arrived, they were exhausted, thirsty, and standing on ground Timur had chosen. Timur had even diverted the only stream. The Ottoman army would fight under the July sun with empty water skins. It was a trap, 2 years in the making. July 28, 1402. The plain of Ankara. 85,000 Ottomans faced an army nearly twice their size. At dawn, the armies collided. The Ottoman wings held. The Janissaries stood like a wall around their sultan. Then came the moment that decided an empire. Thousands of Tatar horsemen in Bayezid's army turned their banners. Timur had bought them long before the battle began. Then the soldiers of the old Anatolian principalities saw their former princes riding beside Timur, and they defected too. Within hours, nearly a third of Bayezid's army had switched sides. Only the Serbs, his Christian vassals, refused to break their oath. They cut their way through the encirclement, fighting for a Muslim sultan to the last man. Bayezid retreated to a hilltop with 3,000 Janissaries and fought until nightfall. When his horse fell, the Thunderbolt was finally taken, dragged in chains before a man he had called a coward. For the first time in history, an Ottoman sultan was a prisoner. Legend says Timur kept him in an iron cage and used him as a footstool. The truth is harsher in its own way. He was carried behind Timur's army in a barred litter, a sultan displayed like baggage. His treasury was looted, his capital burned, his sons hunted across the empire. Chroniclers wrote that his beloved wife was made to serve at Timur's table. For a man whose pride had started this war, every day was a deeper defeat than Ankara. In March 1403, in the town of Akshehir, Bayezid died, broken, 8 months after the battle. Some say his heart failed. Others say he ended his own life. He was 42. The empire he built tore itself apart. His sons fought a civil war for 11 years. The Ottoman state nearly vanished from history. And here is the great irony. Constantinople, hours from surrender, was saved. Not by a crusade, but by Timur. The city of the Caesars survived another 50 years, until another sultan finished what Bayezid started. Timur died 3 years later, marching against China. His empire crumbled within a generation. The Thunderbolt's empire, against all odds, rose from its ashes. History remembers the winners, but it was the loser of Ankara whose dynasty would rule 3 continents for 500 years. Defeat broke the man. It could not break what he built. This has been the story of the losing side.